In the interest of time, maybe we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to do a brief introduction and then people will join as they become available. I am very pleased and thankful to have Dr. Vineeta Mittal here joining us today for our session on personal branding. She's the Division Chief of Pediatric Hospital Medicine at UT Southwestern in Dallas. She clearly has extensive leadership experience, both locally at her home institution and then also nationally with the APA, the AAP, and the American Board of Pediatrics. The details about her awesomeness are in the bio that I sent earlier. And I don't want to take up any more of her time because she's presenting on a topic that is near dear to all of our hearts. And so the floor is all yours, Vineeta. And just so you know, the session is being recorded so that anyone that is not able to attend today can view the recording, and I'll give it to you. Thank you. Oh, we can't hear you, Vineeta.
Okay, sorry. I muted myself. So Anna, you're in Iowa. How long have you been there?
So it's going on 4 years that I've been at, as a hospitalist here, but I grew up in Iowa. So I had been in Iowa previously and did my undergraduate medical school here and then left for a while and then have come back for the last almost 4 years.
Okay, so faculty there for 4 years. And how about you, Michelle? Where are you and how long have you been there?
I'm at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and I've been there, 9 years now. Oh my gosh.
Okay. I know it seems long, right? Yeah, it does feel like it goes by quick. Okay, so I just wanted to get a feel before I start. So today's topic is about, developing your networking skills and managing your brand. And I find it extremely important. And I feel these are some topics which are considered like soft topics. They are not taught to us in medical school. We get thrown into academic positions to do our job. And it's only as you go through these, you start recognizing some of these skill sets that others have and you're learning from. And that's when I feel it's very important for physicians, especially hospitalists. We work in large health systems. We are sort of the leaders of a team. We lead not only the medical team, we are working with multiple subspecialties. We are in leadership positions. So it's very important to understand the concept of networking and building your own brand. So that's the reason I decided to pick this topic. So the goal is to really understand what is a network, why should we develop a network, what are different types of networks, how are the skills, what are the skills you need to build a network, how do you build a network for yourself, and then clearly understand what's the concept of brand in the context of an academic hospitalist. And then how do these two gel together? Like how do you use your networking skills, or how does your brand play a role in your networking skill, and how do you manage both of them together to really grow your academic career? If you were to go to any other field, especially business, marketing, any corporate world, I think this is something people know already. But in medicine, we are not taught. We are only taught medicine, how to take care of a patient, but there's so many things that comes day to day that we are not taught. And as a result, first 3-4 years are sometimes very frustrating, and all of us struggle a lot because you're thrown into a mess and you don't know how to handle the mess. All you know is to take care of the patient, but which is the easiest and the smallest part of what we do. It's the smallest part in terms of time consumption, but it is a very gratifying part. So, with that, like what is a network? So the network is, if you really look at from the computer's point of view, it's a group of computers and other devices, they are connected. So they're able to exchange data. So there's a connection and there's information exchange. And that's pretty much what it is when you have human networks, people knowing each other, and it's information exchange leading to resource and leading to growth, and which is what network is about. Now, each of the devices on the network can be thought of as a node, and each node has a unique address. So again, Anna is one node, Michelle is a node, and I see Parvati joining is a node, and I'm a node, and Neha is a node. We are all different parts of the computer. We are all human beings. If we are connected, we have a network. If we have a network, we are talking common things and exchanging information. And having that network is very important. Now, there are network of hospitals. In your hospital, your hospital leadership is very much into the network for local network, regional, national network. There are physician networks. And then the network that we hear about in the Epic world or in the EMR world. And so what is networking? It's a verb, it's an action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. Now, we are taught in medicine to be, we usually don't look at these things as very favorable. It looks like there's a negative connotation to it. What do you mean by, interacting with somebody to get some information from them or share information from them? It's kind of the way most of the humanity works. Like we have network with our families, within the families, we have networks with our friends, and it is a way to exchange information, and that information is the key piece. If you look at the dynamics, and I give a talk later on about power and politics, it is all about information and resource sharing, which generates these positions. The person who has maximum information is the most powerful person, because then how they generate and how they share leads to a lot of resources and growth for people. So it's really important to have a social and a professional network. Most of us have our social networks, but it's the professional networks we are not taught how to develop. Now, the way to look at it, in this is the quote from the business world, and you'll see lots of quotes coming, because the way I got into this talk was somebody from my network at San Francisco, you know his name, Francisco Alvarez. He invited me to give a talk in his quality program. And he said, what would you like to talk about? And I was thinking, what could I talk? And he said, I see you as a networker. Why don't you talk about networking? And that's when it dawned to me that, yeah, I am a networker and I have to prepare a talk on networking. But it took me time to understand, how do you teach networking to physicians? And as I looked through the data, a lot of literature is from marketing and business world. So the quote there is, if you're not networking, you're not working. You can imagine in marketing and business world, like it's relationships is everything. So if you don't have a network, you don't have relationships, you're not moving much in your career. So the way to look at networking is from like a micro or a macro level. And, for somebody who's new, like if you were to teach your fellows, like I teach them about micro level is at your division level, at your faculty level, at your co-fellows level, when you work in the ward team, when you work at hospital level. Some people, when they're on call, they get away with everything. They don't get paid by nurses as much as some others do. Some people, we all know, I see Anna smiling just now, like remembering, and we all do that, right? Why some people get paid more, why some people get questioned more, why some people never get questioned. Everything they say, people just roll with it. It's like the God is walking on the floor. So it's your influence, it's your network, it's how you treat people, it's how the relationship you have, that's the trust they have in you. When you finish rounding, you are done. Nobody asks you a question, things just moving. We all know people in our institutions, because they have the cloud, they have the network, they have the trust. People know them, they trust them, they took time to know them. And they know nurses by names, they know their families, they know their social workers' name, they know their whole history. It's, for some people, it comes naturally. For some people, they have to develop it. For some people, I have been asked, like, how do introverts develop networking? I think networking can be developed by anybody. It's understanding what network is and then taking your time and developing it, and understanding why it's important. At a macro level, it's your national network. It could be through listserv. Now, listserv can be good or bad. You could put yourself out there and really create a positive brand, or you could totally tarnish your brand by how you behave. So these are venues available. You can make or break it. So it's very important as you grow your network to also know your brand and build your brand and be aware of it. Annual conference is another place. I think, Neha and Jennifer and Jorge, we've known each other for a long time. And I think Neha and Jennifer and Jorge are part of my professional network. We've written book chapters together. We've done workshops together. We are doing advanced together. We are doing fellowship together. Sometimes we are supporting, sometimes we are, helping each other. So it's part of my professional network that has grown through PHM national networks. And we have many such networks, many of us. So I think understanding what is networking, and we briefly talked about, like, why do you network? How do you network? You network to form connections. You network to form professional relationships. A lot of time opportunities come through that, influence comes through that. Again, it's not just about connecting with people. It's about connecting people with people, people with ideas, people with opportunities. And many times you'll notice that, like, that's it's a softer way. It looks like it's a different system that works around us, that sometimes we don't know of it. And sometimes if you're lucky, you stumble upon one person who connects you to second, and that person connects you to third. And here you are, before you know 20 people. And then there's a book being written. Somebody emails you, can you write a book chapter? You're like, sure, you write a book chapter. Next thing is, can you come do a workshop with me? It's you forming your network, but to remember your brand is going along with your network. If the brand is not strong, the network will not grow. I write a lot of book chapters because I have a big network now. Now I get invited to be associate editors. And when I get invited to be associate editor, I have 40 chapters to be written. And I have to find 40 faculty in pediatric hospitalists to write those 40 chapters. My brand is equity and transparency. That's what I tweet, and that's why I'm part of Advance. So I have to make sure I pick people from all regions of the country, of all race and ethnicity. But who are the people I'm going to pick? I'm going to pick people based on their brand. If they will do the task well, they will do task in a timely manner, and I don't have to remind them 20 times. That's the brand I'm looking for. And if you portray that brand to me when you come to network with me at PHM, I have made a notice of it. And before you even know it, you're on my circle. Next time I have an opportunity, I'm looking at you because I need people to do the work well. Because my brand is that the chapter will be great, the book will be awesome, it's going to come out on time. So for my network to grow, I'm very careful about which brand is allowed in my network. And for many of you who are starting out new, you are building your network, you also have to build your brand along with it. So when you're building your network, you're meeting people at PHM, you're meeting people in your division. It starts from where you are. It starts from where you are, what kind of connection you have, what kind of relations you have, what kind of opportunities you get, what influence you create, depends upon who you are, how you portray yourself. And I think that's the big takeaway that I want you all to take from this talk. It's not about quality. It's not about quantity. It's about quality of relationship you have. It's better to have one person in your group who knows you really well than to know 20 other people, right? So oftentimes when we talk about networking, the questions come up like, what is networking? Is it relationship building? Is it team building? Is it mentoring? Is it sponsoring? So, is it relationship working? It is kind of like, the currency of networking is not greed, but generosity. Like, you're not going to network with somebody just because you want something from them. That person will see through that. When people come to me and they say things to me, even Neha and Jennifer and Jorge, we've been in PHM long enough. We've been in an academic roles long enough. You can sense things just like I can sense, so can you. So genuine relationships is what networking is about. It's not about hunting, it's about farming. It's about growing those relationships. In your division, are you the person who people sometimes, when they desperately need to swap the call, do they come to you? Are you that generous person who will help, or are you the person who are never willing to swap a call? Are you the person who are always angry, rolling your eyes and coming in the call room because guess what this mom said? Well, that mom may have said whatever, but guess what? You created your brand in your division right now. And I think that part is very important. So again, going back, and I keep going back to macro level, because you need to know it starts at the micro level, your relationships with your colleagues, your nurses, your respiratory therapists, your mentors in PHM, outside of PHM, at your university level, and at macro level is, at national level. It is awesome to get an option to do a workshop, but it also puts you on the stage where you're being watched. Did you do it well or not? Because that'll decide whether you're ever going there again. Or, somebody else is inviting you to partner with them. So your brand goes everywhere with you. Your network, you decide where you want to take it. So is networking teamwork? Hard to say if it is teamwork. I don't know. Strong professional networks do create strong teams, but the quote about team is, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others. That's about teamwork, but network is your own personal network. So I'm not sure if it is teamwork. Is it mentorship? People said, well, if I have a mentor, isn't that my network? Yes, it is part of your network. It's not your only network. So when you're looking for a mentorship, you want to go somewhere, it's best to find someone who has already been there. Like, no need to find a mentor to teach you how to write a manuscript if they haven't published one. So you need to find somebody who's done it so they can show you how to do it. So your network can be, is networking and sponsoring, is it all the same? It's kind of all relationship building. So it's all intertwined somewhere. A sponsor is somebody who, is senior to you, who has done the things you want to do and is there to just lift you. Should they be in your networking? Absolutely. If you are lucky at a younger age to get a great sponsor, that's wonderful, because they will not just mentor you, coach you, guide you, they'll also sponsor you. So having different people in your network is important. It's simply cultivating of mutually beneficial relationships. So that this is a definition which sort of will make some of you a little uncomfortable. It's simply the cultivating of mutually beneficial give and take win-win relationship. It works best, however, when emphasizing the give part. It's something very hard for us, as I don't know if it is physicians or pediatricians, we find it hard, that give and take or win-win, like it's seen as, oh, I'm not a business person, I'm not that person. But the truth is, we are, like, as human beings, we really are. We develop relationship with each other. It's a give and take. You're not counting, but if somebody swapped a call with me, I will be very grateful to them. It does change, I'm so grateful to them. Next time they need it, if I can, I'm going to do it. So it's not a planned give and take, but it's that gratitude because somebody did something for you. The same thing happens in so many other things. If I need to go for my daughter's game and somebody said, you finish at 5, don't worry about it, you go at 3, I got you. I want to feel obliged to help them next time. And that, before you know, your network has started developing, just at your workplace. And there's so many such examples. And the biggest thing about network is the relationships. And the relationships are deep relationships, trusting relationship, where not just the person, them personally, you are, invested in them like a friend. And I feel when I look at my own network, I have a huge network in PHM. And I feel I know a lot of people who started around the same time as me, and I know them. They're like my family. And now when I go to PHM, not to attend PHM, but to meet the people I know, to meet my network, because we've all grown together. So it's a give and take, win-win, cultivating mutually beneficial relationship, connecting with people. And that connection with people connects you not only to people, to opportunities, to resources, to ideas and relationship building. I still remember one of the PHM meeting, sitting with Jennifer O'Toole, discussing an idea about starting Advance. And I've had so many meetings since then. And, talking to Neha and Jorge, both of us, about, the fellowship idea. So it's my network of people who I know them personally. I know their families. It feels like they are my family. But, it's a professional relationship and it remains for years. We've known each other for over 10 years now. So I think as we, next thing is like understanding the importance of network. So if you all have any questions, feel free to stop me, but I'll, it's not a long talk. In 20 minutes, I'll wrap up the talk and we'll have some time to discuss. Like I said, your professional network is your professional capital. Having a network where you are locally of trusted colleagues at different levels, not just your clinical world, but, if you like education, then get to know the people in education and, work with them, carry your brand with them. And before you know, your opportunities will come. You'll get invited maybe to a noon conference, and that would lead to a fellowship interview or a residency interview or a workshop or resident as teacher. And before you know, you're invited to interview for an APD. And I think it's just the way the human relationship aspect works, but we are not taught about these things. So think from micro and macro level all the time. Things from, is this my micro network? How can I do my macro network? It is the number one unwritten rule of success in business. And I think I see many people around me who are also networkers. Like, we don't say we are networkers, but you have relationship building and you stay connected with your professional colleagues. So the importance of networking, like we said, is it helps connect like-minded people. Usually it is like-minded people because you're doing similar things. You may have people at different professional levels. You may have people in different professions as well. I do have, a network here with the management school. Not that much of a closer network, but I do have a network there. It gives you visibility. Sometimes you may not be able to fend and, promote yourself or advocate for yourself, but your network might give you visibility. They increase your sphere of influence for sure. I can tell you for myself, like having a lot of, committee membership nationally and having opportunities to write book chapters came from my network, came from people who have mentored me for years. And that has helped me grow my own career. it also gets you opportunities for professional growth. You may get mentoring through your network. Mary Ottolini has been my mentor for like 12 plus years, and I still go to her every PAS meeting. I make it a point to have coffee with her at every PHM meeting. It's been 10 years and still I ask questions and still I run ideas by her. My work-related problems I discuss with her and get feedback from her. Karen Wilson is in my network and she's a mentor to me. I'm trying to recruit somebody from research and she's the one helping me, even though 10 years ago, we never thought we'll be doing this. So I think that network, that professional network always comes to you, supports you, guides you, and gives you opportunities. And it's really important to build it at different local, regional, national level. It sort of builds your clout. Another thing I think is very important, as you start working locally, you will notice there is politics, and where there are people, there is politics. And I'll talk more about it in my power and politics lecture, which is, I just love talking about it. I think politics is always local. That's why it's even more important to have a regional, national network to grow yourself. And so you can get out of the politics and continue to grow your career. And as you get national presence, the politics gets easier locally. What are different types of networks? So we all have personal networks with our families and friends, a social more with your friends. And then the professional network is what we are talking about today. And then there are open and closed networks. Like there may be some people having a closed network where only you can go if you have blah, 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 or different medical schools, like, or different business schools have their own networks. Different companies have their closed and open networks. So what we are talking here is a professional network. And what are the skills you need to develop a network? So again, it's very hard to say what skills you need to develop. But I think if you are, as you think deeper about this topic, one second, I'm just trying to see. I saw a couple other people join in. So just for people who join in a little late, this is just a soft topic about, how to develop your networking skill and branding. So if your network is a network where you build relationships, then I think you have to think about, how do you build relationships? Are you a person who likes to talk to people one-on-one, spend a lot of time on them, get to know them, take it slow? Or, are you a social butterfly like me? Like I talk to a lot of people and I, can really have conversations. I can hold conversation. Crowd doesn't bother me. And my husband is the other way. He's like, gosh, I don't want to go in the crowd. I don't want to know who to talk to. Don't leave me alone. So we are all different. We are wired differently. So it's important to know, if you are thinking of building a professional network, how do you build relationship? How do you establish trust in people? Like, what are the ways, have worked for you in the past? Who are your trusted professional colleagues? How did you have that relationship with them? How do you build your reputation? That's very important. And I really wish somebody had taught this to me early on in my career. I was a very reactive person, and over time, I have learned to manage my emotions and sort of display more emotional intelligence. So building that, reputation and brand is also very important. So in terms of building your network, it's up to you how much people you can handle and how do you build relationship and how you develop trusting relationship. And we can talk more in the Q&A when we do. I'm going to switch gears and now briefly talk about brand. And I sent this article out to you, and I was really impressed that somebody in academia wrote an article about knowing your personal brand, what academics can learn from Marketing 101. And I really think, I do this lecture to new faculty in my division every time because I wish, like I said, somebody had done it for me. We are not taught these in medical school. We are taught how to take care of patient. That's it. But there's a lot that comes to become an attending in a new place with people practicing for so many years, with nursing, respiratory therapists, leaders from hospital, from physician groups. We are just thrown in there. And as a result, we do provide good patient care, but we behave very differently because we are not taught how to behave. And it's extremely important to really understand what is a brand and why it is important to build your personal brand and maintain it, because that ultimately leads to professional growth. And a faculty member's brand is what what their work product is. So like how good you are, what you do, and how they do that work says about them to those who encounter them. So it's an external thing. Your brand is something you build internally, but actually what your brand is what people think of you. So the way to look at it is, if I say Google or if I say Apple, there's a brand attached to it. If I say Samsung, there's a brand attached to it. It's what you think of the brand. And that brand is what they are trying to build for you to recognize and buy their products because you trust them, because they behave in a certain way. They are reliable, they are trustworthy, they'll always follow through. So yeah, I'm going to get an iPhone and I'm going to get an Apple, device because that's what I think of Apple, and I'm not going to get X one because I think of that. So that's the brand. It's an external view. So this is a framework that is sort of good to remember. And if you all are fellowship trained, or if you are in a big division, I'm sure you hear things about mission, vision and values. So these are like the guiding principle for any organization, any division, and any human being. And how does that fit with the brand identity? So a mission is who we think we are. Like my division's mission is to provide the best care to hospitalized children. That's our mission. Our vision is who we want to be. Who do we want to become? We want to be the top 10 hospital medicine division in the country. This is all internal. This is what we think. This is what we want to be. What are our values? So what informs who we are? And I find this is so important to know the values. Whenever you are in doubt, you go back to your values. Our values are, high quality patient care, safe care, equity, transparency, and family first. So these 5 are always our values. So sometimes when you're confused about why are we doing, what are we doing, you go back and say, what are our values? Our values are patient care. This is the right thing for the child. I became pediatrician for the child, not for the parent. So I think knowing those values are important, but these are all internal. Brand is external. Who others perceive us to be. We may think this is what we do. We may think we want to be top 10, and we may have these values, but externally we may be not portraying that. And another division, if you ask a pulmonologist, what do you think for hospital medicine division? They might not think what we are. And in that case, we have to readjust and really say that what are we sending the signal that is not really aligning with what we think we are and what the others should think of us. And that's the brand that I'm talking about. So just like in the business world, or even when you talk about actors or actresses or famous singers, there's a brand associated with it. So a brand is what you make of your brand. And going back to the hospitalist world, like I see faculty, coming, fellowship trained faculty coming. There are some who just on board and you don't even realize that they were not your faculty 2 years ago. They are mature, they understand the process, they are very emotional intelligent, they are not reacting, they are not being dramatic, they don't throw temper tantrums at every tough patients they get, and they are just very mature. And that's one brand. And then you have people coming in, turning red about getting a call as they're listening to ER, like you see them sweating, or they're rolling eyes, or they've talked to a patient who are very difficult, having a meltdown in the call room. I think it's okay to express your emotions, but you have to be aware where you are, who else is around you, and how are you being perceived, and what is it doing to your brand, and what is your brand. So this is a Venn diagram. It shows, I find it very helpful because it sort of tells academic faculty member, you can identify when you're early in your career, what's going on in your institution, what skill sets you have, what's your passion, and then, what's the best place to place yourself. I see a lot of people coming and saying, I want education, I love education, or I love quality. But does your institution need somebody in quality? Does your division need somebody in quality? That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should do what you like to do. But if you are really, looking at what your institution needs or what your division needs, do you have the skill set? Like you may want to do quality, but have you done anything before? Have you taken a project from beginning to an end to a completion? Or, have you published anything? Have you presented anything? Are you passionate about? So bringing a lot of passion to a need is great, but without the skill set, it affects your brand. So, if you are going for a job because you're passionate, but you don't have skill set, you are not going to perform very well, right? So in some cases, if you are very passionate about a position and you really want to do it and you have the skill set, but your institution doesn't need it, then you may show a lot of passion, you may have the skill set, but you're not going to really do anything there because there's no need over there. So I think understanding those things, and the brand sweet spot is like there's a need, you are passionate, and you have the skill set. So it's very important to understand, where you're coming from and not to get into the place of hobby, poor performance, or burnout if you don't have the brand sweet spot. It's a little bit out of the talk that I'm giving, but I just wanted to throw it out there. And the last thing which I want to end about the brand, is, I would love if you all have time to read this book by Adam Grant. And those of you on Twitter, like I stalk Adam Grant, he's a professor at Wharton and he's a psychologist, and he wrote this beautiful book about give and take. And he's written some good book, very thoughtful and a great, framework of understanding of human behaviors in healthcare organization or in organizations as such. And I love to understand that and learn from that. And one of the things he talks about is building relationships, the 3 reciprocity types. So the human beings can be takers, they can be givers, and then there are matchers. And I think if you are the person who's into this kind of stuff and you're reading these kind of things and you're aware, you start seeing it around you. You start seeing the givers, you start seeing the takers, you start seeing the matchers. So understanding that as you're building your network, so this is how he described this as, like, givers are who are always giving themselves up. We all know people who are like, I can do it for you. You tell me how you need. I'm happy to stay extra. I'll see that patient for you. Oh, I don't mind doing that. And they are just such loving people. They're always willing to give, but they're also the one who get, burned out because they give too much. They don't feel that they get the same reciprocity from everybody else, and they are at risk for burnout. And then there are people who are always taking. We all know of people who will only call you when you need something. Otherwise, you don't hear from them. And those are takers who will take the breath out of you because they are just takers. They are not givers. They are not in between. They are at the other end of the relationship reciprocity, which we talked about, the give and take relationship. And then there are otherish givers who are like selfless givers, but they are strategic. So I think see those things and see where would you belong. And I think all of our natural tendencies, I think I'm in the middle, I'm a matcher and I'm a giver and taker, but you may not be. So I think understanding that is important, but it's also important that in a give and take relationship, you really don't want to be the giver who's exhausted giving. You have to be strategic. And as horrible as it sounds, you have to strategically make your network based on what you want to do. If you want to go in education, it's great to have network with people who write RO1 and NIH, but that's not where your interest is. You can become a giver there, but it's not going to help you. So your strategy should be to network with people in education, because that's where you're planning to go yourself. So to align yourself where your clinical interest or your research interest or your career interests are. So understanding that matching is important. Understanding where you want to place yourself is also important. You probably want to be strategic. You want to be in the middle, and you want to work from that point. That way, you are helping, but you're also getting helped. And some of the things as I was preparing this lecture when I gave it to the fellows was, how do you develop meaningful relationship? So I think the best way to build strong relationship is to seek advice, because it creates meaningful opportunities for someone to contribute to your life and feel fulfilled by it. This is also an advice given to me sometime when I'm talking to the people I report to, who are generally old white men, and they love to be spoken to in the tone of, can you give me advice how to do it? Do you think it's okay? It's not to hurt your ego. It's the way to break the ice, and it's the way to build relationship with them. And whether you take the advice or not is secondary, but I think starting with an advice helps you to understand where that person is coming from as well. Something called 5-minute favors. We all do 5-minute favors for each other. For example, hey, I need to do, I really need to run to see this kid and I'm getting call from Access Center. Don't worry about it. I'll take that call for you. Or you need to leave 15 minutes early today. Go, I got you. Just you check out the list at 5 p.m. and the night person comes, but go, I'll take all the calls from nurses. 5-minute favors. I think it's extremely helpful. And it's this kind of favors that people notice that you are maybe somewhere in the middle, a giver and taker who's willing to give some of yours to get something. You're not always the person asking for a swap. You're sometimes also taking that swap and helping others. So I think it's important to look into 5 minutes favors that you're doing to each other, they'll always come back. They will always come back because people are very grateful to people. It's just the human nature. Be genuinely interested. And lastly, how you make people feel matters. I think we always talk about brand, and brand to me is not only how I treat my peers and my colleagues. I think the biggest example of a brand is how do you treat the cleaners in your office? How do you treat the cleaners in the hospital? How do you treat your medical students? Because if you're the person who feels you are going to feel very superior by putting a medical student down, I don't want you to be in my network because it tells me something about your brand. So how you make people feel is important. And I think understanding that just like we notice, we are also being noticed. Just like we have impressions of people, people also have impressions of us. And I think finally, the last one is the how do you tie the two together? What's the framework for PHM for network and branding? So I think your network is your authentic relationship with people that you've developed over time. So from the network point of view, you may have within your local hospital where you work, what's your relationship with the hospitalists? What's your relationship with the medical students, with residents? How do you treat them? How you treat people, how you build relationship, how you portray yourself is your relationship. And then what's your brand is your network is your relationship, and how big of your network you have will also depend on your brand. If you are treating people with respect, if you're developing genuine relationships, if you're being the sincere person, then you will get more opportunities. You will grow your brand everywhere. And I think from PHM point of view, you start with your division, you expand to your multiple colleagues, multiple, divisions that you work with, different specialties that you work with, and then regional, national, and lately, I guess, virtually and remotely as well. So I think that's all I had for networking and branding. And I hope you all will network a lot. And as a first step, I hope you'll come find me at PHM and get to meet me. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and we'll be happy to take any questions if you all have. So I see Kate and Parvati join later and Alicia join later as well.
Yes,
Kate?
I'm so sorry, Dr. Mittal. I was dealing with a clinical situation, but I apologize for being late.
No worries. Where are you from?
I'm from VCU in Richmond, Virginia. I'm actually going to be transitioning over to the University of Virginia this fall in September, but I'm a hospitalist here.
How many years have you? I've been asking where people are and how many years they've been there.
Yeah, sorry. So I just finished my first year on faculty in March. I did my fellowship here at Children's Hospital of Richmond starting in 2019. And then joined the faculty after that.
Awesome. I'm glad to network with you. Parvati, tell me something about you.
So I started as a peds hospitalist here at New Mexico, about a year ago. No, Jakasi, in July 1 year. And then before that, which is where your talk resonated a lot with me. For 2 years, I was in pharmaceutical as a medical person. And then before that, I was at Penn State for 5 years when I was a peds hospitalist there as well.
Wonderful. So you've been doing it for some time now.
You would think that's what the CV says. That I did it for 5 years, took a 2-year stint, but grew in different ways. Like we talk about like agendas for meetings and a RACI chart and what are my action items and all of these. And I was like, okay, who is Parvati sort of thing, right? Like we talk about all that. And then I came to medicine. I was like, we don't talk about any of this in medicine.
So
but
true.
Yes,
So true. Nice to meet you. Alicia, how about you?
Hi, I'm Alicia McCoy. I'm a MedPeds hospitalist in Memphis, Tennessee at Le Bonheur, and I am in the division chief here, and I have been doing this job for 10 years on faculty this year, which doesn't seem possible, but yeah.
So you know the drill. I'm happy to take any questions that you all have or any comments and any thoughts that you want to share with anybody else. Yeah, Kate.
I have a question and actually this is really timely because I was just at PAS where I actually did get to meet Alicia. There was no formal meeting, but we did get to run into each other. And the part in your talk where you talk about sort of the importance of being a giver in a networking relationship, speaks to some of my, I think, my concerns and anxiety about going into networking relationships at this point in my career, where I am fairly like early career, and I don't always feel like I have a lot to offer when I network with people. And I don't mean that to like downplay my assets or my potential or anything, but like there is very much this sense of like, you know, I might want to connect with somebody because they're doing work that's really interesting to me and they're more established in that work. But how do I like, I mean, to be completely honest, how do I make sure that that is bi-directional? I want it to be, but I feel like I'm very much on this sort of taking end at this point in my career of, you know, that connection being probably more meaningful for me than the reverse.
I think it's okay to be in that relationship. We all have started to be in that relationship. We all started as takers. But over time, you become givers. I'm giving right now. I was a taker all these years ago. I'm giving right now. So I think you will also give that way. And give and take doesn't mean you take from the person and give it back to them. It could be to the larger community. But I think you're seeking out your network right now. You're early in your career, but you know, a give and take can be locally, where you exchange a call for somebody, they do the call back for you, or you. So it's not like it's not keeping scores. It's a relationship. Don't feel you're developing a network to grow your professional career, and it's okay to go stalk people who you need to. I can't tell you how many people I used to write before PAS. Can I have coffee with you? Can I have coffee with you? You write to 10 people, 3 agree for you. That's good. And it's okay. Like if they gave me their time, I'm grateful for their time, but you don't have to give back immediately to them. They might reach out to you for something else. And if not, you give to somebody else. It's not keeping scores.
So can I ask a follow-up then?
Please do.
So when you meet somebody in a meeting, and I had a list of people that I wanted to meet and was lucky enough to meet a few of them, but in the follow-up, like what is the right way to sort of approach like keeping that line of connection open? Like I find myself wanting to, and I'm sorry if this is a very naive question, show my naivete is showing, but you know, I find myself wanting to like send an email to be like, it was so nice to meet you, but I have no ask or no, like, I don't have anything, you know, how do you approach those networking, like those very practical parts of networking of what's the follow-up when you make a connection with somebody?
I think sometimes it's just maybe once a year is fine. You don't have to ask if you know, just to say, hey, it was nice to meet you. It's okay to drop a line immediately after that. It's okay. Or sometime if you need them, if you get into a situation where you need an advice, it's okay to reach out to them. And if you don't reach out. Like some of us have network which have been going on for 10 years, but I only meet them once a year. Like some people they come find me and they meet me because that's the only time I meet with them, and they don't have any needs from me. I don't have any ask of them. It's just a relationship. But it's that visibility remains when you meet once a year. But you don't want to keep reminding them to say, hey, I'm here, I met you. But at the same time, it's okay to shoot an email. It's okay to ask an advice. And in early in the career, if you want to keep that network going, and if you feel, no, I need to communicate with them because I'm building with them, I think you engage them in things that you do, provided you really need something. Like, do you need a mentoring relationship from them? Do you need some advice from them? But if you don't, and you've developed a connection, leave it. Like these are just loose connections around you, and they come to you when you need them. They will come to you. Like I feel some of the people I have met, I recently started a fellowship program I didn't know anything about, and a lot of, junior or mid faculty helped me. And I felt so much of gratitude for them that they didn't have to say or do anything. They just genuinely, when I called, said, can you help me? They helped me. And I felt I have to give back in some way. And when the opportunity comes, you do. So you don't have to stay connected. The person will remember. Most people remember the networks they are developing. I don't know if anybody else, Jen, Neha, or you have any other thoughts on?
I think you're totally right. I have relationships where I am a taker. I still have them, even though I've been doing this a long time. And definitely have relationships, networking relationships where I'm a giver. And I have many times where I've met somebody like you were saying, Kate, and I didn't have a specific agenda to reach out to them, but just kept the connection. Say it was good to see you, would love to chat in the future, something like that. And then you just run into them, and then if a further interest develops where you have a joint, collaborative idea or opportunity, they remember you, and they remember that you are kind, that you are generous with your time, that you're someone that has interesting ideas. And so, yeah, just keep the fuse lit.
And not every relationship's going to turn into this like deep mentoring relationship. Sometimes it's just knowing people.
Yeah.
That is so critical in medicine within our field. And letting people know what you're interested in, right? Because I think this is where developing that elevator speech, that quick statement, you can tell them like, what are you interested in right now? What's work that you're starting that's new, so that when opportunities come up, they'll look to tap you. I think that's a big thing when you get to be more senior in the field, what you spend a lot of your time doing is thinking about how you can elevate others. And, you know, often we're always like, okay, let's pair someone very senior up with someone very junior to create more opportunity, but people have to know what you're interested in. So it's sort of staying on their mind for when things pop up. And I think some of that is just when you see them at a meeting, starting up a conversation, what's going on with them, you know, giving them an update, what's going on with you. And you won't have to talk to them a lot, but it does help create those connections. So like next time there's a workshop opportunity or, you know, whatever it is, people will be like, hey, let's pick Kate. She'd be a great person to you know, bring into this project.
Any other thoughts, any experiences you all want to share? Parvati,
I have a question. Oh, yeah, Parvati, do you...
No, go ahead. You go.
I'm not sure where everybody is in their career, obviously, other than Kate. And so I think being 10 years out, I feel a little bit more mid-career, which again, feels a little weird to say, but I think have created a local network very well. And I think that as I've gone to meetings, have started to develop those sort of more national, but I think does sort of the networking and maybe even the branding process change as someone who's mid-career? Because I think that where Kate feels a little bit intimidated, maybe to like reach out to people as a young person, like to me, that may seem a little easier because it's expected. Whereas once you've sort of progressed in your career to some point where you're in this sort of a little bit of a weird zone where I've done some things, I have some that, you know, I want to do more like national and other, and so does that look different or change over time? And does that make sense what I'm asking?
You mean from mid-career, sort of how does that change? Is that what you're asking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you grow it as you go along. Like you have developed a lot of local network and now you're trying to go nationally. So trying to build that national network, which you already are building. You have Jen on call, you have Neha here, you have Jorge here, and you go them, you meet them and you hang out with them. So you meet their friends, you meet their network. And I think it just grows. It definitely grows as you go from mid-career to, you know, if you're going nationally. So you have a goal in your mind. I have a local network and I want to grow nationally. But if from the local network also, if you want to go a little higher up locally, I think it's okay to go. Like I went through that kind of imposter syndrome where I never felt comfortable to go meet the CEO of the hospital. And then I was like, well, the chief of cardiology talks about, I met with the CEO and did this, and the emergency room division chief talks. I was like, what the hell, I'm going. So I just set up an appointment with him. And I said, I was just having, he was like, what's your agenda? I said, I have no agenda. I was having FOMO because all these division chiefs said they were meeting with you. So I wanted to come introduce myself. And it felt a lot to get out of my comfortable zone, but it felt awesome after I did it. And he was like, hey, I love you, hospitalists. Can I round with you every 2 months? I'm like, oh, absolutely. So now I take with him for rounds every 2 months. And here's my network. And, you know, when I'm rounding with a CMO, with a CEO, then a lot of people are like aware that, oh my God, the division chief of hospitals is rounding with a CEO, watch out, like, you know. So I think it now, for me, like that itself helps me with my resources that already sets a tone for my division. But I think getting out of your comfort zone and saying, okay, I'm in the mid-career, I'm a division chief, who else should I be networking that I'm not networking because of my own barriers, and seek out that network. And even, you know, for me giving this talk and having this big national network, I, you know, to go to the leaders locally, sometime I have to push myself and say, what's the big deal? Like, they're a little bit 5-6 years older than you. What else? Like, yeah, they're in this role because they have more wisdom. They're a little older, but put yourself out there. So I think broadening that network locally also is important.
I think another good piece of advice is you need to create what's going on and what you want to do. I think a lot of people sort of sit back and wait and they're like, okay, I want to network, but come, network with me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's, I don't know if you guys remember in Titanic when they're at the dinner and that really mean guy played by Billy Zane or whatever it is says, a real man creates his own luck. Well, it's sort of like you're going to create your own destiny in your career. You've got to get out there. You cannot wait for it to happen. And some of you will be lucky enough to have mentors, have sponsors that will help network you. But quite honestly, you have to do it. You have to get out there. And I think early in your career, or if you're mid-career and looking to get outside your institution, which I think is a really big thing. A lot of people get really entrenched in their institution, but the magic really happens when you start to build those national networks. Invite colleagues. Wouldn't it be great next year if all of you fellows and some of us did a workshop or some presentations at PAS or PHM? We have to do that, by the way. Check, I'm putting that on our list. And that's really what I did in my career. I joined different programs. I would say, let's put on this workshop. And, I'd find someone more senior and a few of my peers, and then we'd invite bigger name senior people. And I would have that chance to get to work with them because we invited them. And we said, we'll put together the slides, we'll do all the work, which is kind of painful when you have these senior people. They're busy. They don't have time to do all that work, but they can come in and be that big name. And then that connects you to them, gives them a chance to see that you can deliver, you do great work, you're creative, you're passionate, but you have to get out there and make it happen. And there's lots of different ways, and it doesn't have to be scary. You can do it with your peers. You can do it, you can take your little posse in there when you go to do this work, but you got to get out there. And I know it's hard. I'm an extrovert, so it's very easy for me to network. I love it. But even I get tired after a while. And I know it's a lot harder for folks that tend to be a little bit more introverted, but there's definitely ways and techniques you can use to just start to get out there, get your name out there. I mean, PHM is a really cool community because it's small, it's safe. Presenting at PHM, small, safe, easy. And I think all of us on the call started there. That's where we started doing presentations. Then we branch out to bigger meetings and other opportunities. But just people need to know you and know your name. And that's how you sort of build your brand with time.
And I think follow through is very important. If you meet people and if you say you're going to do something, do it. Because people remember. And I can't tell you how obvious it is between people who say they'll do it and they'll follow through. That's a big, big sign of somebody you can trust. And I think people you are networking at the national level who have the cloud, if you follow through, I think that's that part of your brand is so solid, then that's when the opportunities are coming to you because they have so many things coming down for them. They can't do it and they want to pass it down to others, and they're going to pass it down to person who they remember followed through. But they'll also remember who did not follow through. So I think that part is very important.
Just to switch topics, and I wanted to kind of get a sense, and I don't know if there's an actual question or if somebody could actually help, but I just wanted in the spirit of being completely transparent and vulnerable here. I have this. So one of the points that you had was the 5-minute favors. So I call them in my mind, my low-hanging fruit. Yeah. So it's easy for me to do that. And it's almost like, it gives me the sense of I did something. There's a gratitude that comes with it and a good feeling. And then later on, it kind of pans out. And that has consistently helped me and happened to me in numerous times, especially when in my new job, I've only been here for a split second. But before then, that currency that we were talking about having people, hey, yeah, no, privacy, yeah, sure, I got you, go sort of thing. But I sometimes have trouble going beyond that low-hanging fruit, not in doing favors or doing stuff, but taking it to the next level. We do something, we get a favor back, and it's almost like it's a roadblock, some sort of block that I'm not able to kind of jump over. And I don't know if it's this just hiccup I just set up for self, but I didn't. If you had any advice from anybody, I'm up for it. Other than follow through.
You do 5-minute favors and you do well with that, but you're not able to get past beyond that.
Yes. Like, okay, I want to do a QI project. I have an idea. I've never done it. Like, I have an interest. I want to do it. I have a good idea, but I have no skill set. I'm Peds ID trained, so I have that background as well, and I can see a lot of things, but I can start up the conversation, 1 or 2 conversations later, it's like all dwindling down and I can't move forward. And that's consistently been a thing. Yeah, I don't know, that helps.
So are you working with the people who do QI? Then I would ask them that what is it that you're not doing? And it looks like you are willing to be vulnerable, which is a great sign that you're willing to be adaptable. So I think you just have to talk to the QI people and ask them for honest feedback sometime. But I think the 5-minute favors, I do agree that that's the best way to break an ice with anybody. The start with 5-minute favors. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep up.
Sorry, I'm not helping you much here, but I think it's hard to say, but I think, looks, if you really want to do like going to somebody to teach you and being vulnerable and saying, what am I doing? Because I can't get past this. And when you directly ask them the question, then you give them the permission to really, give you guidance and where you might be getting stuck and they can help you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know you're being helpful in the sense, like just putting it out there. Like, this is an issue. This is a thing, like recognizing, because I was like, I can easily do the short and quick things. I was like, and then it gets just stuck. So I don't know if everybody else feels that, or have people kind of work their way through it, or does it just easily flow? Like, we have a word for this in my language. I can't think of a concept from everybody else.
I think we all go through our own, I'm sorry. I think we all go through our own roadblocks and you have to find a way to maneuver through them. That's just the part of an academic career. I don't know anybody who's not faced a roadblock. So don't get disappointed by that. Talk through with the person you can trust, be vulnerable, ask them where you're not doing well, and then, move past it. Like, I think you'll eventually reach your goal. And I think roadblocks are just for a way to find another way to get to your goal.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed the talk and the concept, just because we don't talk about this enough in medicine. Like, we want to do a lot of these things and we do 100 things, and at the end of it, we don't think about what our brand is, and nobody tells about it till we are preparing our dossier and they're like, what are actually you doing? Like, what are you? So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mittal, for doing this today. It was fabulous. And I can attest the fact that she's one of the best networkers and brand builders you will ever meet. In the chat for all the fellows, Carly put a quick eval. If you could just click on it now and do it right away so it's done, so she doesn't have to bother you with emails. And I was going to say something else and I cannot remember. But Dr. Mittal, we are so grateful for you. So thank you.
My pleasure. Of course. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you
Take
so
care,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.